Is it normal to be a little bit nervous?
Hey, we are live. So. All right. So welcome to the Teflon Tales. I was telling Erika just before we went live, I'm a little rusty right now because I haven't done this for 4 weeks. So be gentle. Uh, Erika Benadom is my guest. Welcome to the show, Erika.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. And it's my very first live event. So whatever you do is going to be phenomenal.
Okay, thank you. So the bar is low. I'm going to beat the bar. Yeah. So again, thanks for the connection through Yusuf. That's how I got to know Erika. And again, backdrop is, as I typically do, I before I email somebody or reach out to somebody, I look up their profile. In Erika's case, something jumped out at me, which is atypical, and I'm going to read it out, right? In your LinkedIn profile, you're just below your name, it's passionate about amplifying the originality and brilliance in others. So it took me a while to actually digest that. Once I understood the meaning and the import behind it, I knew you had to be a guest, right?
Thank you.
So one of the things that happened once I asked you about, like it was 4 weeks ago or something, Erika, you want to be on the Teflon Tales, and it wasn't an immediate yes. And last week when you and I met, I kind of figured out why it was. So talk a little bit about that hesitancy, number one, because I think it is something that others can relate to, I'm sure, and then we can dive in.
Absolutely. So yes, for a long while, I was hesitant because I didn't want the focus to be on me, because throughout my career, my focus has always been on others. When I was in education, my goal was to make sure I did right by students and supporting my staff, and I facilitated those opportunities. And then in my current role, very much am supporting the executives. And so they're in the limelight, and I'm actually enjoying this backstage vantage point. So I was quite nervous and wasn't sure about doing something like this. So that's where my apprehension was sourced from.
And just for the edification of others, and the way I convey this to Erika was, the moment you take the spotlight away from yourself, so it's not about Erika, it's about what others can learn from Erika's journey. I think it suddenly became less of pressure, right?
Absolutely, definitely.
So let's talk about the journey, right? And again, going back until 2018, right? You were like completely, you were all in education, right? I'm a teacher, principal. And then you did the Teflon switch, which is something which is very, very different, that you took upon in 2018, and here we are in 2021. So talk about that mind shift change that had to occur in 2018. And I'm going to ask you the question that I ask every single one of my guests, which is, as you get really good at something, in your case, you were, like you were saying, you've been a teacher, you've been a principal, and then you made the shift, right? So you get good at something, and you're a quote unquote expert at that, and you start something new, and obviously you'll probably be a novice at that. So how was that shift in Teflon terms?
Absolutely. So 2 decades in education, a variety of roles, as you mentioned, whether it was teaching. I was also the director of technology, and most recently principal. And I had all these different experiences at the site level, at the district level. I worked with incredible people, and at Almond, where I was the principal, our goal was to revolutionize learning. And we did that as a team and empowered our leadership team to make those decisions for how to think outside the box in education. And we hit some road bumps, but we also had some great success and implemented some wonderful practices. And after 5 years of working with that team and that staff, I was ready for a new challenge, a new opportunity. And I really wasn't interested in a county role or a district role, because I really like what being a principal taught me was I like being in the thick of it, right? I love being where the energy is, and where people are on the ground doing the work. And I couldn't figure out what my next move was in education. So I thought, hey, I'm in Silicon Valley. I have worked in technology, piece of cake. I'll just transition into a corporate role.
Uh-huh.
And I quickly found out that it is not that simple for many reasons. One reason is that, if you have an applicant that you see in your pipeline who has a 2-decade background in education, you might have caution and concerns about how they're going to function in this new world, because education has a very traditional mindset, and how, will this person be innovative and able to adjust to this new environment? That's one. The other was, I had all these notions in my head about what marketing involved, but I'd never actually practiced marketing. I'd never been in the field. So I quickly learned that I had so much to learn about just corporate world and terminology and, all the different functions. So I started looking for opportunities that were more within my current skill set in the corporate sector, and really had to shift my thinking to, I'm starting over. It's almost like I just graduated from college and I need to get my foot in the door and try something and establish my credibility. So that's what led me through the different roles that I've had. And I'm really enjoying this current role of being an executive assistant, because it's allowing me to learn and excel at supporting the executives that I work with.
Wow, you're walking the Teflon tails life, right? Because I think a lot of times people get into that mindset. Okay, so I'm walking out of this and I'm going over here, and you're going to have the red carpet welcome. And to your point, I think lots of times you realize, right, that's that awareness of, okay, it's not exactly what I thought it to be. But sometimes, again, being in Silicon Valley myself, it's like, hey, you got to keep going, right? And sometimes that's not the case. You got to actually cool down and say, hey, maybe this is not my cup of tea. So again, kudos to you for doing that. And so I'm going to talk about something which you posted on LinkedIn and involves your son, right? So last December, I'm quoting over here, my 14-year-old son asked if he could sign up for a service to receive casting calls for acting opportunities. He had our full support, but needed to drive every step of the success. After auditioning for countless roles, he was contacted to read additional lines. My excitement for him went off the charts. This was it. And then it wasn't. He didn't get it. Mom, it's okay. It's like when you started out in corporate America, you applied for so many jobs and you didn't get them, but you kept applying. So let me hit pause over there. There's a sequel to that also, right? The fact that your son has seen his mom in action and has seen what rejection means, and saying, okay, Mom, like, you went through that. That's fine. I can go through that. So what was that feeling at that moment?
I was very proud. I was proud of him, and it validated, I think, my hard work. And it reminded me that it's not always the outcome that matters. Sometimes the process is more important. And, I did have about 4 months where I was unemployed, and I remember trying to stay active and busy. I even created these job seeker chronicles and was trying to learn how to do video editing to kind of share my experience. And I think I applied to over hundreds of jobs, and some of them were way out of my grasp. And, whether it was at dinner or what, I'd say, okay, I applied for this one. I'm going to get it. And then I go, I didn't get it, but I'm going to keep trying. And so I think, that showed them that it's really, resilience and perseverance is incredibly important, and that you just can't give up. And and you also, if you're waiting, for me, I couldn't wait for the perfect role. I had to get something to get started. And I'm so grateful to my network. And Yusuf actually was that, we call him my talent agent. He was my talent agent, and he helped me get that first role. And then I had, another dear colleague, Robin Daniels, who helped me with my second role. And it really just kept progressing that way. So like the Teflon tails, you learn, or you experience these hot moments, and then you cool down. But in the end, you still have this incredible skillet or whatever the Teflon is on. And, I think it's a metaphor for life, really. For me, the only choice is to get up, face the day, whatever challenges come to me, I'm going to take them. And I have this, my family knows about me that, on hard days, when, whatever the reason is that I'm struggling, it might be 6:37, maybe 8. And I say, so this day needs to be over, and I'm going to go to sleep, and tomorrow's a new day, and it's going to be better. And I truly wake up each day with great expectations and hopes. And then I just let the day unfold and do the best I can.
Wow. So I want to call out Cook Marty, who made a comment over here. A few years instructional coach and now ABD. It's incredible how difficult of a role and constantly evolving. So Kirk, again, thank you for sharing that. And we have another kind of so true, and resilience and truth is never in our control. So thanks, Ajay, for the comment too. So again, as you can see, the topic that you're talking about over here, which is really the ability to stand up. But again, going back to why we're doing this in the first place, the hesitation you had initially, it's giving permission for others to do it. I think the moment you take the spotlight away, in your case, I think this happened within the family. So I got to finish the second half, right? Fast forward 4 months, he landed a role in a video on a YouTube channel. His character was 6 speaking lines. Mom, I got to start somewhere. It's like your first job after education. It opened a door to the next one and the one after that. He wraps up in 2 days. He wraps up his day 2 days on set today. He's on the far left of the picture. He had a picture posted. So I think that the point being, this is something that we sometimes fail to realize, like whether it's within our own family, whether it's an extended circle, the ability to kind of keep experimenting and keep moving forward, and actually gives permission for others. So again, kudos to you for that. So one of the questions that this poses, right, which is again the ability to cool down. And the cooling down is not necessarily about switching roles per se, but to your point, which is it's been a not so okay day, so therefore it's okay to take a longer break, right? It's okay to sleep it over, and that is anti what we've been taught, right? Or what you see around, which is, hey, you got to burn both ends of the candle, and we got to outstrip the competition and all of that. So how have you kind of use that Teflon analogy to say, okay, it's time to cool down. I got to cool down really, really quickly. And coming back to your second aspect, of which is coming back tomorrow, I'm going to get hot again.
Yeah. Well, I think so, sometimes we don't have the luxury of a night, right? Sometimes we're having a moment in the middle of the day, and whether it's from a meeting or an interaction that you're having, and your emotions can run strong, and how do you manage those and still move forward and do what you have to do. And I think, so I meditate, and I take breaks, and I reflect a lot. And one of the ways that I do that is through writing. But what I think, as I think about kind of the hardest parts of the transition into this new role, is I really had to deconstruct the identity, my professional identity that I had built over 20 years, right? Like I had this persona that I carried with me, right? And I was this leader, and, some people would say I was a badass educator, right? and I was always an advocate for kids. I was super outspoken. And then all of a sudden I went into this new role that was not a leadership role, a very supportive role. And I had an interaction, I remember, with someone who knew me from my days in education, and they said, "Oh, so you're essentially a secretary." And, I said, "I guess you could look at it that way." I look at it, in a much different way, but I had to really work through accepting this new role and giving myself permission and not caring what others thought, right? Like this, I just graduated from college and I'm starting over. And so what? I'm in my 40s. That's okay. Like, and I had to just tune out the opinions of others and find the confidence within me. So in terms of cooling down, I think it's really important to have a center and a sense of self, right? Because if you know your worth, then others can't destroy it, or a situation can't destroy it, right? If you're in a terrible meeting and something's going wrong and, or the deal fell through or whatever it might be, then you really have to keep yourself together and be logical and think through, how do I resolve this? And sometimes that means stepping away for a minute and doing something different, going for a walk, and really not taking it personally, right? Because I think the greatest thing that I did learn in my role as a principal was, I imagine when I'm meeting with someone, I imagine this space in between us, right? And when conflict is arising, that conflict sits in this space. And it's not that person is personally attacking me, and I need to be aware to not, react to that. And that to be able to objectively look at this space and say, what's happening here and how do I navigate it? I don't know if that.
No, it makes, it amplifies what you talked about earlier, right? Which is really the ability to kind of not take things personally. And people are making judgment, like call it the armchair quarterbacks. Like I have a book over here by Adam Grant, Think Again. So it's the same thing, right? There are so many armchair quarterbacks. Or Brene Brown talks about, hey, you're not in the arena, right?
Yeah, totally.
So so I'm going to talk about something else, which again struck me as I was doing research before our talk, which is one of your posts, right? And you were willing to go out there and learn from others. And this is from Saida Sapieva, who's an executive assistant at Greylock. And you not only went out and asked her what it takes to be successful in this new role, but also you shared that on LinkedIn. And I think a lot of those are general lifeisms that we can all benefit from. So I'm going to go through quickly and ask you one question. Number one, it's all about mindset. Embrace the role, fall in love with it. When you do these things, it doesn't feel like work. Second, our role is to make those we support look good, period. Third, priorities will change, just accordingly. Be flexible, remain nimble. Hey, I'm going to use this for my Teflon. Four, develop a relationship with those that you support that is inclusive and judgment-free. Again, going back to what you said, right, which is that judgment-free is so difficult to do, but so important. Five, exchange feedback quickly and often so negative feelings are not hardened, right? Again, so true, right? I mean, if you harbor ill feelings, you got to just get it out there, right? Take ownership, give yourself the space to make mistakes. Don't dwell on them, forgive yourself and learn. Margin of error will get smaller. I mean, each of these is, I'm sure we can do a complete thing of itself. Number 7, develop shortcuts, travel briefs, background request forms, weekly syncs, any other hacks that help you move quickly and efficiently. Again, so the question is, number one, and sometimes, again, going back to the Teflon analogy, is you're good at something, you're an expert, people come to you for advice. You're shifting roles, you're brand new, and like you said, you're graduating again. How did you put that ego behind you saying, hey, Erika has to start from scratch, this is brand new, and I'm going to go out over there, I'm going to learn? First question. And second part of the question is, what made you post this on LinkedIn? And for me, I'm not kidding. I'm going to actually take a printout and put it up over here, because this is something we can all benefit from, right? And this spans every single role. Doesn't matter whether you're a leadership role, whether you're a newbie coming in. So answer both questions.
Yeah. So I think throughout my life, I have really appreciated the beauty that I find in others. I was born in Mexico. I lived in Brazil. I lived in Spain. I lived in Indiana, Connecticut, and California. So I saw a diverse swath of people and experiences and cultures. And it really formed my appreciation for all that other people have to offer. And I really will be in an experience and say, wow, that's an amazing human, right? Like there's so much wonderfulness about them. I want to learn more. So I approach life with curiosity and wonder. And I think by doing that, it causes me to seek out experts, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I've ever thought I was the best at anything. I've always wanted to know more, to do more. And I've always had this approach that there's something that someone else can teach me. I just have to put myself in that position to learn that, right? So I think that's where, when I get into a new role, I want to digest all that others have to offer. Why did I post it on LinkedIn? I think it goes back to the amplify the originality and brilliance of others. Typically when I post, it's not about me and my accomplishments, it's about others. Like I recently participated in this amazing webinar for female founders and for founders of color. And I was so impressed by these women. They were incredible. And I wanted to celebrate them. So I posted on that, right? So I was so grateful to Sadia for sharing her insights with me, and I wanted to honor her. I think that's it. It comes out of wanting to honor the person who imparted their learning with me, and so I'm sure I'll post after this. Like, what a great opportunity, Ashwin, for you to invite me, and how wonderful that you're providing a platform for others, to share a little bit about themselves and learn how to become more resilient. So that's, I think, the source of where it comes from.
Wow. Okay, so last question, right? Again, this is going back to the thesis behind doing the Teflon tales, which is giving permission to others to be more Teflon-like. So somebody who's been, like you were for the longest time, in a particular vertical, right? Growing up the ladder, and that's, they've gotten really good at that. But then looking around, especially one of the things that amongst many COVID has taught us is, hey, no job, no vertical is you can't depend on it, right? So you got to be more agile. So, but what tips do you have for people who've been doing a quote unquote a single trick pony and who have their own self imposter syndrome to get over, age factor that again could be a bias in their own head, and then the judgmental world about saying, hey, like, what are you trying to do right now? So any tips for them to get past that mental and societal hurdle that they impose on themselves?
Yeah. So I think if someone's making a pivot from one career to another, I think it's really important to have reasonable expectations, right? So, and to allow those expectations to evolve, right? So if you are currently a director or a senior vice president in one field and you now want to switch to another, I think it's really important to be realistic and think through, maybe there is going to be some sort of adjustment or gap in your new role, and to be clear before you decide to make the transition, right? That this is something you might face. And then and you have to be willing to do it, right? I was willing to do this. I could have easily said, forget this, I'm going back to education and I'm just going to go where I'm comfortable. And I know the space. And I think that's another factor is comfort, right? Like you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. And if you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone, then stay where you are and don't take that step. So let's see, comfort zone and just being willing to adjust. I think sometimes I've seen, people later in their career who aren't willing to make that change, right? They're not willing to say, okay, well, I was a senior director, now I'm going to start as an assistant. And I think just continuously having a great sense of self and worth, and not tying that into your profession, right? We're really complex human beings that we're so multidimensional, and work is just one piece of our life. And I think we need to know that there's our profession, there's our families, there's our own individual selves. Like, we need to know that those are all part of who we are, and they all have worth. It's what we do is just one thing.
Yeah, truer words were never said. So again, I think Erika, thanks for showing the way and continuing your journey and posting with the sole intent of amplifying others' originality and brilliance. Thank you.
Ashwin, thank you so much for this opportunity. It was wonderful.
Thanks, Erika. Bye-bye.